Welcome back to another youth-centered podcast. We are heading at the end of week 8, heading into week 9 of our new normal here we have at the Youth Center. I'm happy to do this week's podcast with a favorite teacher, strong educator at the high school, Conor Meehan, who's going to come in and talk to us about a lot of different things from an education standpoint, from a parent standpoint, from a coach standpoint, and obviously both of us have a sharing of being passionate and being a bit of positive individuals and trying to get through this. So first of all, Conor, thank you for coming back on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
So we had you on the first time talking obviously about student council, and we had the famous Caitlin Wessel on with you. But if you could just start off for our new listeners who may not necessarily know who Conor Meehan is, who is Conor Meehan?
So I'm a teacher over at North Andover High School. This is my 13th year I'm in right now, and I've spent all 13 years over there. I teach English, public speaking, and then coaching. I coach the track team, shot put, and I advise the student council.
Yeah, you do a lot of different things there, and I've actually been sitting on some committees with you, which we'll talk about a little bit shortly. But I wanted to get first into this amazing initiative you started, and if I'm correct, it was before the pandemic. Lots of different things were being started, and then obviously this initiative that you've taken place called N.A.H.S Care, which you're going to give us a little bit of history of, has taken an incredible leap during these last 8 weeks, and I am so impressed with your leadership in getting the high school community involved. And some of the great things, too, is it has spilled over. I'm seeing wonderful things similar at the middle school, our elementary school, our early education center, for most of our schools in town here. So tell us the history of N.A.H.S Care, and then take us through this N.A.H.S Care during the global pandemic.
So, it was actually the students that came up with the idea. We sat down with my executive board in the summer, and I kind of led them through some questions, mainly what do we do well at North Andover High School? And the conclusion was, we're a school that cares about each other. From sporting events to the band to just in the halls caring about each other. So that's where we developed this hashtag N.A.H.S Care as something to kind of guide our work for student council through the year. We started the year, we did some social media stuff, we did some signs up in the high school for teachers to write what they care about, students could post them too. And we did in the middle of the year a N.A.H.S Care week where we already had our established traditional school spirit week, which is kind of like everybody coming together celebrating our school spirit. In the spring, we always do our Dude Be Nice week, which is about celebrating kind of individual traits, kindness, gratitude, compliments. And N.A.H.S Care week was meant to kind of bridge the gap and be like, how do we celebrate those groups of school groups within the school that are important to us? So we had that in January, and like you said, then comes the pandemic. And with the staff videos that we've done, that came from, I was doing a little reading up on student council related stuff towards the beginning, and this was just something that was in there, staff engagement videos. I emailed out a calendar to my colleagues, said, sign up if you want to do a date, and if you'd want to do like a 30-second video, and hashtag N.A.H.S Staff Cares. It kind of just built off of it. So, I didn't want to reinvent the wheel, but something to differentiate a little bit from what student council was doing too. And it took off, and I was absolutely floored by what my colleagues did, from Kristen Newman doing a parody song, Steve Nugent's TikTok dance, Bennett Ahern practically making a feature-length film. But I think it's also important to recognize, like, Sarah Coles was only 13 seconds, but it was heartfelt, and that's her. Sarah Hickey is terrified of the spotlight, and she brings in other people, but all these teachers doing something to show they care. And I think just the range of videos that we saw was awesome from everybody.
So the first couple that came out, I was blown away. And, in our business, and you and I, with leadership and things like that, we're not reinventing the wheel. I mean, if there's something really good out there, we take that and shape it to ourselves. So 2 days into your N.A.H.S Care staff video, I'm having my Zoom staff meeting with my staff here at the Youth Center. And I said, have you guys seen this from Conor Meehan? And obviously they had. And I said, we're doing this. We got to do something. Again, we have a much smaller staff. It did work out. We have 5 staff, and it's 5 days a week. So we were For the last 7 weeks, we were each taking one day to kind of send some kind of a message on it. But the pressure was on. When I saw Bennett and Hearns and I saw a few other people, I said, we got to get pretty creative. And we really did. We had Kyle Palladino do something similar to Scott Young did at the high school, but it was more like he played a member of the youth center and what a day at the youth center would be like, and it was pretty funny. And we did some stuff with Halloween Day, and the staff was all dressed up in costumes. So when I saw all that, and I said, this is really working, what was the initial reaction from your teachers? Because as you said, and I know Sarah Coles too, but reality being some people love it, some people love the spotlight, other people it's terrifying. What was your first reaction when you just threw this out to people?
I mean, the people who wanted to do it jumped on, and I had to send a couple waves of email out, and slowly a few more people jumped on, a few more. I think we ended up with 40 staff members.
Wow.
And I think if anything I could say about North Andover High School is I truly believe all our teachers care. All our teachers care in different ways, so we're not going to get to 100% because it's just not for some people. But at least to me, I didn't get any real blowback on it, And one person did text me and say, I think it's a cool thing you're doing. It's not my cup of tea.
Sure.
But generally, I think it's gone well, and the students liked it that I talked to on student council.
Yeah. So, what is the reaction, Ben? You've talked to your student council kids, and I'm almost I'm more at the front lines of dealing with kids. I've heard positive things. What has gotten back to your desk in terms of how the kids have received this?
No, the kids enjoyed it. The Caitlin Wessel asked, are the teachers competing for likes on Twitter? And I said, no, we're just doing it because we want to. But everything I've heard has been positive.
Right. And it's pretty great. I don't pretend to know all the staff at the high school like you, but I've been around a long time and I know a lot of it. It's interesting. I saw different sides of people that I didn't know about, right? So you think you know somebody or you think you know a piece of somebody, and then you see a video and pretty hysterical stuff with that. How does N.A.H.S Care plan? Obviously, we have no school for the rest of the school year. What else will N.A.H.S Care do? Will you continue the videos? Do you have anything else up your sleeve here to kind of help get the word out and positivity and keeping people upbeat?
As far as the staff goes, I've talked to some staff members about a phase 2 because, like I said, the original idea I think is to run its course. So we're talking about some ideas of maybe throwing some more videos out, not every day, but here and there.
Yeah, I do think, we talk about, when you walked up the stairs with me, we talked about this too. I strongly believe there is Zoom burnout, right? Mm-hmm. So, I think all of us, you and me in particular, we're in thousands of Zoom meetings, and kids are certain things get old, right? We live in a different society right now where things move pretty quick, and it was great while it lasted, and I'm sure you'll have some other stuff with that too. But it was very powerful, and as I said to you, I loved how the idea trickled down to like the youth center. Mm-hmm. And I saw versions of this obviously at the middle school and the elementary schools and our early education center, and just some really cool stuff. Let's talk about Conor Meehan, the educator, right now. So I remember very clearly in March we get sent home. Looks like we're going to be home for a couple of weeks. And then obviously that gets extended to May 4th, and then eventually obviously gets extended to the end of the school year. Myself and my department will probably be coming back in mid-May. Staff only, no kids. But when they finally rolled out virtual learning at the high school, as an educator, I remember talking to a couple of our kids who, they weren't critical of it, but they said some were really good at it, some will, struggled a little bit with the technology. For you as an educator, how did that work for you? And can you tell us a little bit about how you think the virtual learning is going?
So, for me, one of the biggest challenges I think we had at the high school is the fact that we're also turning this over when we're turning over our trimester too. So there's this whole process of we have to close out trimester 2 remotely, get the kids to turn things in to us, and get them to hopefully a passing grade, while still planning an online system for trimester 3. And a lot of the kids I have in trimester 3 classes are kids that I've never met before. And so that's been one of the biggest challenges is starting to build relationships with students who I might only know them as a small picture in Power School or the first letter of their name that pops up when we meet online. Curriculum-wise, so I teach freshman and senior. I think the senior one's been really, really fun for me because it's my humor English elective, and I kind of have that autonomy that I'm the only one that teaches it. I can, do what I want. I've kind of taken what I do in the classroom normally, shorten it. We're only meeting twice a week. With a 3-week later start, I told the seniors today, it's basically Tuesday of their last week because we got 4 more classes. With the freshmen, I think one of the challenges was there's 4 freshman teachers, getting us all on the same page. We all like to go in kind of different directions. We've done a lot of work in the English department about giving us more autonomy to do what we feel is best for our students in our classrooms, go to our strengths. And I was really excited for what I had planned in teaching nonfiction for this trimester B, and then this happens, now we got to really make sure we're back on the same page and doing pretty much, if not the same, similar things, so that a kid's not like, I'm in Mr. Meehan's class and I'm just doing A, and then I'm in Miss So-and-so's class and she's got me doing A, B, C, and D. We had to have that kind of similarity in like what this looks like. So I do like the system that we have in place. I like, I try to really focus it on, you got a 70-minute time slot, that's the work I'm giving you to do. You might have a little bit of reading to do to get ready for the next class. Reading never hurt anybody.
Sure.
But, I'm really trying to keep it that reasonable amount in a 70-minute class. And then usually try to meet with them on Google Meet once a week, too, just to, even if it is just looking at a first letter, at least making a connection.
Sure. Now, in terms of your peers, I think some people look at what's being rolled out between teacher and student or whatever. How often do you have these conversations with your peers on what's working, what's not working from an educator standpoint?
Every week we meet as a department. And then we break off and meet as grade level cohorts too. So we always start, Carrie Caffrey is my department head. She's awesome about giving us that time in our meetings just to connect, talk about where we are, and talk about what's working for us. And we've shared some things, we've got some ideas. And once a week we're talking behind the scenes. That's why that schedule's built like that kids have Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday classes, and then Fridays for us.
And Fridays for you. So what is the feedback? You have a lot of kids that are very open with you. They tell you like it is or whatever. From your perspective, I've heard from the kids' perspective, straight on with me. But from a teacher, what have you heard from your students? Do they think it's working? Could it be done better?
So I actually gave my freshmen a feedback form after the first month. Only 7 took it. 4 said, all good. In fact, 1 said I was the favorite class, so I'll take that compliment. 3 said it was a little too much work, so I'm looking at the amount of questions I'm given, and it's tough feedback. It's easy to get defensive, like, well, you haven't been on top of it either. But really, kind of take that feedback and look at, what can I do to kind of tailor this to a little better. In talking to like student council kids and them, the kids that aren't necessarily in my classes, they're fine with it. They like the kind of looseness of it, but then that's what's driving us crazy as teachers. Sure. Because almost every day I have to go back through every assignment I've given and see, okay, has anyone turned it in today? Has anyone turned this one in today? And so it's hard and I understand why we don't have deadlines. You don't know what the situations of kids are at home. You don't know when kids can get on computers. I have one kid that said, I can only get on a computer on the weekend. Right. I understand that. It's just tough, and I think that losing that building, losing the high school, we lose some of that structure that a lot of these kids need.
Absolutely. Now, let me step outside the actual educational learning. Obviously, as someone who works with families in town here and kids in general, obviously my number one concern is the social emotional aspect of kids. And I think we're doing a really good job with kids that we've identified as kids we really need to check in. I think what's gotten lost on this is we sometimes aren't really checking in with the social emotional with the kids that don't fit the total parameters of, oh yeah, we need to keep an eye on this. And I'm talking about, students that you have, high achieving kids that are doing a real good job, and we're like, we don't have to worry about them. Now my take on is we do have to worry about them. We at least have to check in on them. So talk to me a little bit in terms of the kids that you have, in terms of checking in as an educator on more of the social emotional things.
Well, let me give you a story that just this morning, moving out of North Andover, my nephew is in Wakefield Middle School. High achieving kid, smart kid, and his mother, my sister-in-law, is a teacher in the middle school too, so she's always pretty in the know of what he's doing. She gets a call last night from his English teacher who says, hey, this is kind of awkward, but Kevin hasn't turned anything in 2 weeks. I talked to his other teachers. hasn't turned anything in any class in 2 weeks. So like you're saying, it's a lot of these high-achieving kids that they don't have the structure. They now have that freedom to, like, hey, I can just go on my Xbox in my room for so many more hours now. And as soon as my sister-in-law went up and confronted him, he started going, I'm so stupid, and beating himself up over it. And then he's up to 11 doing all the work he missed. And I think that's where the social-emotional piece comes in too, is that these are kids that want to do well and want to do what's right. They might not always make the right choice, and when they don't, they're going to beat themselves up over it.
Right.
And so for me, one of the things that I do in my classes, I do this in my class. I don't know how you word this in reality. When we're in the physical classroom, I try to do this once a week, and it's taken even more of importance for me now. I call it the temperature check, and it's a simple survey. How you doing today? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5's I'm great. I'm good. I'm meh. I'm struggling, and I'm having a really hard time. I could use a check-in. And then if they want to tell me why, there's an option to tell me why. But at least I'm getting that read. And I'll tell you, I'm seeing a lot more 3s and 2s over this than I did when I was in the classroom.
Yeah, I mean, I love your idea. I mean, that's something that could be, and again, I'm not trying to add more things to an already busy teacher's schedule, but if we really are worried about the complete person, we need to find a way to check in on that, and that actually seems to be a nice way to do it. Smaller scale, like I start off my staff meetings, and again, it's 5 adults, it's different than kids, but our first 10 minutes of our staff meeting is me going around to my 5 staff people just checking about how they're doing. We're the face of positivity. We're trying to be optimistic about everything, but I got to make sure my 5 staff members are pretty good too. And I think yours is a nice template that people could do, because not everybody's going to want to talk. Not everybody is even going to be maybe in a tough situation. But I think the ones that are easy to identify, dealing with guidance counselors at the high school, the middle school, in our elementary school, I think people are on top of those kids. We're on top of the kids who use the youth center every single day, and now the youth center is closed. We got to check in on that. I am imploring people to really check in with the other kids that everybody makes the opinion that they're okay. And maybe they are, and hopefully they are. But we need to find a way. So I really like your template, and maybe other teachers will take that on. Let me talk to you a little bit about, how do you think the parents have been to you in particular, because you can speak for yourself? Have you gotten decent feedback from parents? I know parents, they're struggling too. They're trying to understand everything. They want a lot of things. I do think, as I said yesterday in one of my videos, appreciation for teachers is very much renewed, because they're doing a lot of stuff at home, et cetera. What's your take from teachers from parents that you've had?
I haven't gotten too much parent feedback. What I started doing 2 weeks ago, now that we're kind of settled in and I have a lot more of a routine built into my classes, with my freshmen, I'm proactively emailing the parents with the agendas for the week. So I sit down on Sunday and I come up with what my Monday, Wednesday classes are going to look like. I post them in Google Classroom for my students, and then I just copy those and send them to the parents too. One parent emailed me back and said, "Thank you so much. This helps me." Nothing else really came back, but my hope is that they, especially when we have these Google Meets, which are optional, are saying like, "Hey, don't you have a class at 8:30? Shouldn't you pop into that?" So helped a little bit with attendance. The other thing is the completion. I said in one of my emails, "Hey, can you just have your students look at Power School and see where, if there's green check marks, they're good. If they're orange squares, that means it's missing." I had a couple kids email me after that, say like, "Oh, I just turned this in." So I think it's had some positive effect, but like you said, parents are spread thin right now too.
Sure.
I know the stuff I'm able to do for my classes, it's because my wife's awesome and she's taking the kids for the morning too.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. I think sometimes people need to understand our teachers have their own lives during a global pandemic too. Yeah. You being a young father, and obviously things that go through that we all got to work this out. And the reality is we've never had anything like this before, so we're learning on the fly here. And I think overall there is some things that are going excellent. I think there's some things, and I'm one that can look in the mirror. I think we've got to probably over the course of the summer, and we're going to talk a little bit about next year, is we probably got to say what worked, what didn't work, and what do we got to get better at, and what do we got to communicate better, and hopefully we can do that. You and I are both sitting on, and you're on a ton of committees, obviously, at the school, but I was very humbled to be asked to be on the 2020 senior class subcommittee. I'm not sure exactly what our name of it is, but it's a group of 28 of us that have been going to be meeting for the last couple of weeks, and we'll be meeting for the next 4 weeks on doing some things for the very special senior class that has obviously lost a lot of things that we took for granted. So some of the stuff was released, obviously, to parents and kids last week. Mixed reviews. Some kids love the stuff. Obviously, people are disappointed that there's just certain things we can't do with social distancing. But how about from your perspective, can you give a little bit to our listeners of some of the stuff that is public now that we're hoping to do for our senior class?
Yeah, and I think you used the key word there, Rick, that it's a loss. And I said this to my student council seniors when this happened. You guys lost something really big. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to be angry. And know that there's this committee that's going to put stuff together, and it might not fit everything you envision, but we're trying our best here. So I know a couple of the days that we're typically have leading up to graduation, the scholarship night, the awards. Usually during the day, we're doing it for a night now. Those are both going to be videotaped that presenters can still give their presentations. Scholarship night, I'm sure they'll still share the stories. That's always a big part of that, is the stories behind those scholarships too. Graduation is going to be filmed. They are setting up appointment slots for people to come in and keep everything sanitary. They'll turn over the stage and everything like that, but kids can bring their family and walk across the stage and receive their diploma, have their name read. They're setting that stage right up in the auditorium for kids. And then there's the car parade, which I know that's kind of your specialty as a, with your community connections and everything that you're serving on that committee, that we're going to line up all the kids at the high school that want to participate. And I believe they're asking the parents to drive so the kid can be the star of the show, and they're going to drive them through town and give people an opportunity to celebrate the seniors in person. And I know they're looking at July, trying to give them possibly a prom, possibly a celebration. Obviously, that all depends on where we're at in this whole pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody that is outside the school system, obviously I partner with the school system, but I've been impressed with these meetings. I've been impressed with the passion of the people on the committee, administrators, teachers, community reps. Obviously I'm representing the youth center. EJ Folds, phenomenal job representing the police department, because a lot of this does fall on the police department. You have the SOS parents. You have other people, the scholarship people. We're excited because obviously we give out a couple of big scholarships here. We give out 4 Joseph and Herman scholarships, and we also give out 2 Bill Meckel scholarships. So our group here is actually meeting this weekend. They're coming here to do their film to explain what the scholarships are, how important they are, and we're gathering wonderful pictures of our recipients, who we love, and we're going to submit that to Diane Stevens and Miss Conti, who are actually spearheading that. So I think it's going to be different. I think the virtual scholarship thing is kind of neat. I think we're going to be able to watch that, and then similar with the award show. I'm not necessarily a part of the awards show, but I've been to it a number of times. I humbly have an award named after me, and I'm actually excited to see who gets the Peace Prize this year as both a teacher and a kid, and I think that's going to be a nice thing too, that the kids will get their awards. And again, I get it, graduation is not what everybody necessarily wants, but it is what we have right now, and I just think the committee's doing a phenomenal job of putting all that together. Your thoughts of that committee, Conor?
Yeah, I just want to make sure we shout out too Derville Bentley and Lauren McDonald, who
Absolutely.
were the senior class advisors, and when they signed up for this 4 years ago, that they didn't know they'd be getting themselves into this, and I think they're taking a brunt of the focus too of when people see negatives here, it's going to them, but they are working so hard with the class officers, Jack Muse, Anant, Caleb, Lilly. Those are 4 kids I've known so well over the years in student council. They're doing such a great job, and Derville and Lauren are doing this while both Derville's teaching, Lauren's doing still has her role as a nurse, and both have seniors. Lauren's got Kiki here in the district and a son at St. John's, and Derville's got a senior over in Amesbury. So
right.
They're dealing with this on multiple levels, and they're doing an awesome job.
Yeah, 2 very special advisors, and I agree. I don't think they signed up for this 4 years, but they're I just love their attitudes in these meetings. And again, I'm I don't say a lot in those meetings. I am involved. We're very excited. The youth center staff is going to be involved with EJ Folds in doing the social distancing piece on the parade route. We're excited about that. We're going to get a bunch of our board members and a lot of community volunteers to help with that. But as I sit in those meetings, and the one thing that's just overwhelming to me is how much people care. Listening to Debbie Daly, how she's going to, distribute the caps and gowns and what we're going to do with this. And, at the end of the day, I know it's not perfect. I know it's not what everybody wants, but again, I'm impressed with the passion that these everybody has been doing on that, and I look forward to continuing with that. Let's talk a little about your student council. You have a great group. Obviously, I know them all. Great leaders. What's the role of the student council? I mean, obviously, Knights Care was part of that. Like, what's the state of the mind of your student council kids at this point?
They're good. It was my earliest lesson in this kind of virtual world that we're in now. Was I met with my e-board probably the first Friday after we were closed. I met with them over Zoom, and we're talking, and for probably about 5-10 minutes, they were just chatting about nothing student council related. And I think it was Caitlin was like, "Sorry, we'll get back to student council." And I'm like, "No, you need these connections." So that's one of my things with trying to keep the consistency of student council going, with e-board meetings on Friday and whole council meetings on Mondays. Just to give them those chances to connect. And I did some icebreakers the first couple student council meetings just to, keep it light. And now I'm kind of showing them some videos, the kind of motivational videos to kind of get them thinking outside the box too. But as far as what student council's been doing, I said this to them this week. They've pushed something out almost every day of this closure. They've had some sort of theme every week. And they've been simple things. The music week I tweeted you about. Yeah. It was just like, hey, what's your favorite this type of song? What's your favorite that? But essentially, we've done an event every day. You'd never dream of doing an event every day when you're in school. And so I'm so proud of them, of the consistency they've had and to stick with this. Now Teacher Appreciation Week is sending out one thing on Instagram, like, hey, email your friendliest teacher today. Email your funniest teacher today. And I got to give Linnea Parker is our historian, and she's the one, we talk about these things in our meetings, and she takes them and brings them to life on Instagram in ways that I could never do. But I'm just so proud of what they're doing of pushing something out. And we're still, I mentioned earlier, our Dude Be Nice Week. Yeah. And we're still going to do a virtual Dude Be Nice Week next week when we would have done it in school.
Yeah, I love it. I love looking every day of what the latest thing is. I kind of act like I'm a 17-year-old. I really jumped in a lot of that music stuff. Music's really important to me, so I was all over you different things with that. And then I'm seeing the teacher appreciation stuff. This week has been great. Let me talk to you a little bit about you, right? So you're a young father. Wife, what's this been like for someone? We know Conor Meehan, the educator, but the husband and father, what's this been like for you?
Well, I mentioned earlier, my wife is amazing. She is she works at a dental office, the front desk staff, and so she's been out of work since just after me. They kind of kept her on a week or two after, just to do like a day or two a week. They weren't taking patients, but take phone calls, handle the payments coming in. But she's been out of work virtually as long as I have, and so she is awesome in supporting me, understanding the role that I have in the school, and when I have to say like, hey, I got to pop onto the student council meeting, she's totally good taking the kids. I have my son's almost 4, my daughter's 9 months, and so she's a great mother. But I think the toughest thing for us, we know we're doing the right stuff as far as keeping them safe, healthy, but I think we're missing the social interaction. Owen, my son, was in his first year of preschool, and he was just kind of settling in and making friends at school and at his gym class that he was doing once a week, and that's all just kind of taken to him. And so the kind of scariest thing for us, and you talk about social and emotional, is him not interacting with other kids his own age right now. And my wife struggles with the baby. She's at her cutest age right now, and nobody really gets to see her. Nobody gets to hold her. Even when we socially distanced from her parents and my parents this past weekend, but couldn't hold them. Could just look at them. And that's tough.
What are some of the things, and that is tough, what are some of the things that you're actually doing? Like, I am intrigued to know what people are doing this. Like People who know me, I'm usually 90 miles an hour. I'm not home that much in terms of work commitments and other outside curricular activities that I'm involved with. But so what is the new life for you? What do you find yourself doing more? You're reading more? What are you doing?
Trying to read more. Doing a lot of student council work. That's kind of one of the things that keeps me going. The program, and last time I was here, we talked about this program, Character Strong, that I
Sure.
brought to the school. And they did a virtual summit for educators with all these professional development videos. They do these weekly assemblies, virtual assemblies, where they bring in speakers and that, do different video clips. And so that's been kind of my personal professional development, is trying to, when I have time, work on those things and doing the reading too. But I think I kind of go into my room in the morning and have my little classroom set up, and that's when my wife's watching the kids, and then I kind of, as much as I can, when I'm not in senior class meetings in the afternoon, and kind of take the load off her and take the kids as much as I can. I know my son is, for some reason, very obsessed with Mario right now, and we're playing a lot of. We schedule half an hour in the morning, and half an hour in the afternoon that he doesn't even play. He just watches me play Mario. So
Wow.
kind of nice for me too.
Interesting. I will regret if I forgot to ask this. I want to check in. How is your father-in-law, Kevin, doing?
He's doing really well. My mother-in-law, Kevin's wife, had a little bit of a scare. It turned out she had E. coli, but they brought her in. Was worried it was COVID, and eventually they kind of got to the root of it, and she's doing very well now. So like I said, we saw both of them. We saw my parents this past weekend, and everyone's doing well.
That's great. It is a small world. Connor's father-in-law is actually my brother, my oldest brother, who passed. Kevin was one of his best friends, and I think our connection was when you won the Peace Prize, and Kevin Gainey kind of knew who Rick Gorman was, that type of thing. So send my best to both of them.
Of course, yeah.
Hope they're doing well. Let's talk a little bit more about both you and I are positive people, extremely optimistic, self-motivated. Let me ask you something. Conor Meehan must have his down moments at times. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I had one. I struggled with a little bit, kind of a couple weeks into the teaching. Am I doing what's right? And that's why, I put out the survey. It's tough when, I have a class of 17 and 3 show up to the Google Meet. I just got to kind of follow what I know is right, talk through it with my friends, talk through it with my wife. And the other thing that just kind of keeps me going is like I said, the videos, the professional development stuff I'm doing, like looking for those ideas of things I can bring back to the school. The trying to focus on positives, focus on what I can control.
For sure. Now, about 2 or 3 months ago, I reached out to you. My staff had a meeting, and we decided that we would like you, Conor Meehan, to be our guest speaker at Youth Appreciation Day. It's probably the biggest day for us at the Youth Center. It's a chance for us to honor anywhere between 120 and 200 middle school and high school kids who volunteer, give back. And we have a wonderful day. We have some major awards that are given out. We have some gifts, not expensive gifts, but we have a few gifts that we give all the kids. The Youth Appreciation Day t-shirt. We have a wonderful cookout outside. And then we obviously have someone that come in for the last 30 plus years and is kind of given a little bit of a pep talk to the kids about, first of all, congratulating them on their award and kind of give them how they can continue to do that. And you were our unanimously selected person. And I do want to tell people, Youth Appreciation Day is going to happen. It is scheduled at the end of May. That may have to be pushed a little bit later when the governor gives us a little bit more clarity of larger groups. We actually have a safety plan to actually have it outdoors with spread out places for the kids. And we're going to make sure this definitely happens. But first of all, what was your feelings about being asked to be our Youth Appreciation Day speaker?
I'm very excited for the opportunity. I mentioned before I teach public speaking. I obviously use my public speaking as a teacher, but I don't get enough opportunities to just sit there and write a speech and come up with something I want to share. So I'm really excited for this opportunity. As soon as you emailed me and told me what it would be about, and my mind started going with ideas, and I think I got some good stuff ready to go and to flush out a little bit more, but I got a good theme ready to go. And Caitlin told me I had a big shoes to fill. That last year's speaker was pretty funny. I don't know I don't
Yeah.
know that I'll be the funny guy, but I think I got some good ideas to share.
We've had some tremendous people over the years, and I'm sure you will do a wonderful job. And it's just a really nice night for us. So for all those kids out there listening into the Parents Youth Appreciation Day will happen, just like we're dealing with the senior activities and stuff. It may be later in the summer, but it is going to happen. I do want to let you know the awards are in, the T-shirts have been ordered, the gifts have been awarded. So we're moving forward on that whole thing. So we're really looking forward to have Connor on that. Connor, let's switch gears a little bit about, school will end in June. There will be some evaluation of what worked, probably what didn't work. As I said off air, I tend to listen to our medical profession more probably than our politicians. I am concerned about this potential second wave. And if you listen to people, the second wave could be at the end of the summer. It could be in the fall. It could be in the winter. Obviously, nobody knows per se. If we were to have a second wave of this, it could impact next year's school system in the school year. What's your thoughts? Again, you're not going to be etched in stone with everything you're saying here, but how do you see maybe the high school, what it'll be like in September if we are under some of these restrictions?
Yeah, it's going to be weird. There's more questions right now than there are answers, and my sister-in-law brought this up to me when I was talking to her, that even the simple act of handing out papers, that's not going to work anymore. One of my big goals for the year was to start really greeting every kid as they walked into my room with usually like a fist pump. I can't do that anymore. I can't shake hands or any of that stuff. So I have to reevaluate how I'm going to do that. I think just even what the school day looks like. What, do we have some kids in the morning, some kids in the afternoon? Because my classroom cannot fit, socially distant. I got 10 tables in there. Probably each one's probably 6 feet. So
Sure.
that's 10 kids. So how do we break up the classes? How do we deal with class size with the amount of teachers we have? Is it shuffle days? And if that's the case, where does virtual learning come in? Are we going to have live classes some days and virtual classes other days? There's a lot of questions, but I know it's going to look different, and I hope that we also look at what we're doing in the classroom, and that we don't just say like, okay, September we're back to where we were last February. I think this is a great example is these senior events, and looking at these and saying like, okay, we're talking now about how to make them good. How do we keep the conversation going? Because we've done senior events pretty similar. Are there areas we can improve upon? Same thing for education. Same thing for what I'm doing in the classroom. I've cruised through this. What have I learned throughout this whole thing? How can I make my physical in the classroom teaching better? And the last thing I'll say on it too is, and I emailed Mr. Jackson, Mr. Young on this, that I think an important thing is that when we get back to school, whatever it is, it's huge. It's a celebration. We've missed this building, teachers, students, one way or another. Everyone's missed being there. And one of my student council role models, Paul Brannigan, who's runs the state student council as the Middleborough principal, he said very well, when my kids come back, it's going to be like the Super Bowl. And I think that's important to celebrate being back.
Yeah, absolutely. And, running a youth center here, we're hoping to have some summer programs that would probably be a bit of a test of how certain things work. Obviously, we're going to have to wait for governor's guidelines. You yourself will have to wait for, the Department of Ed's guidelines. I myself will be listening to the municipal government, Melissa Rodriguez, our town manager, of what we can do and what we can't do. I do want to have an attitude of the celebration that we're going to try to do something, and then when we can get back to as much of what I call the new normal, because I don't think anything we're used to knowing is ever going to exist again. We're huggers here at the youth center, we're high fivers, we're fist bumps. That's going to change big of how we actually connect with kids here. But my biggest thing is all of us, I need to continue to work on this. It's a daily thing. And we need to start thinking long term, because I think, not to depress anybody, but what's the next pandemic? What's the next issue that may affect how we learn, how we congregate in relationships, and we need to do that. Let me finish with a few questions. You teach seniors and freshmen, so I want to ask, in terms of, you're going to have a whole new group of freshmen that are coming in next year. Now, let's remember, we talk about the senior class, we're not doing a lot of talk about the 8th graders that are making the big step up from being the big cheeses down at the middle school to being the little folk up at the high school, and they haven't been able to have their transition days. They haven't been able to have a connection. They haven't been able to hear the rumor of, don't go to the pool on the 4th floor or something. What's your message to these incoming 9th graders, present 8th graders, as they make this next step up in a whole different world?
Well, first off, join student council and throw shot put for me. But I don't know that my advice to them right now would be any different than on a normal school year. That we're a great school, that there are adults in the building that care about them, that we're gonna help you transition, and come in with an open mind. Don't come in. It doesn't matter who you were in 8th grade. It doesn't matter where you stood with the middle school. This is a fresh start, and come in with an open mind. Come, wanting to do your best and be the best you.
That's an awesome message. I'm going to give you our final word here, and I would like the final word to be directed, and I know you're passionate about this. So many of your kids are in the class of 2020, and obviously we all as a community feel bad for the 2020. I think we're trying to do whatever we possibly can. What's your final word to these kids that are leaving the high school, didn't get all the things that we think of passages of life, but they're heading on to the next unknown in their life, college, and we talk a lot, it's been a lot of years since I've been in college, but college for me was the best 4 years of my life. And what's your message to all those kids that are walking out of North Andover High School into the next chapter of their life?
I kind of always think my advice to the senior class is don't let these 4 years define you. Don't let that building define you. Because a lot of kids do walk out of there saying, high school was the best 4 years of my life. And my hope for them is that, no, like you said, college, getting your job, finding your significant other. Every year for me gets to be the best year of my life. And, I think that advice of don't let this define you takes a new level during this. That it is heartbreaking that you didn't get to finish the year in that building, that you didn't get to finish the year with your peers next to you. But don't let that define you. Go to wherever you're going next year, military, work, college, and just make it yours and make those the new best years of your life.
Great advice, and obviously we echo that all from the youth center here. Young people at the high school, going to the high school, parents, get to know Conor Meehan. I've been around here 32 years, and he's one of the best educators, passionate advocates. He's a relationship connector, and he will help you along the way. And so especially those kids coming in the 9th grade, make sure you get connected with him on that. Conor, thank you once again for coming in and helping us out at this week's Youth-Centered Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Next week, we're going to be having Brian Frazier from N.A.H.S come. And the interesting thing is N.A.H.S has taken on an entire new importance during this global pandemic. I think sometimes we took N.A.H.S for granted, right? It's the cable, Steve. Maybe you can watch a review of the football game, or you can see a school committee meeting or a selectman meeting. I cannot impress enough of people of how much Brian and his staff has had to do during this global pandemic. They are virtually putting on everything that we're doing. They are so involved with this class of 2020 celebration, those award show, the scholarship, it's all because of that. The public address announcements that they've been making from all the community reps. They're filming. Heck, they were here this week to film our staff because we're doing a town video from all the municipal departments. So Brian's going to come in and talk about all the stuff he does, and then obviously how technology and how N.A.H.S can help us even more so during this period. So we look forward to having Brian. So once again, thanks to Conor Meehan, and as we finish every podcast, we always say too much passion is never enough passion.